I don't know. Yeah, hi everybody. It's post Hanukkah integration. Okay, so Sarita, you want to ask your question again?
Yeah,
Just
it's
for the
about
sake of
styles of
recording, yeah.
it's about various styles of learning. One style of learning is that a person learns and they try to make everything very, very basic on their level. That it's like almost like a cartoon. They understand it on their level. It's almost like a cartoon. They mamish got it, but there are certain subtleties that are obviously left out when you try to make it almost like cartoon form in your mind. Um, so it has a minor chasar, and then there are other ways. There are people who can stay more open and not try to bring it down so grub. And then let's say somebody who brings it down so grub, if they don't do that, they just fall asleep. So is there room for various styles? And I was saying, the illumination Alexander Asher, we used to argue about it all the time about it. And she would say, stop doing that. And I would say, but that's the only way I get it. Say, oh, just keep on reading, open your mind. So that's the question.
I'll tell you what it is. It's both. Okay. Anything that will keep you not learning, it's coming from the other side. So here's the catch. I don't know how smart your Yitzhahara is. If your Yitzhahara is so smart that will say, oh, well, if you're learning it this way, you're grubbed and therefore you're not going to learn, here we go. Right? If your Yitzhahara is smart enough to say, oh, sophisticate things or whatever it is, how do you know what's going on? It's the end result. Are you learning? Here you get your answer. So don't try to philosophize too much because we really a generation of Malchus, and Malchus is action. Are you making the action or you're not making the action? That's what counts. All the excuses, all the analysis, why you should have, would have, it's really irrelevant. Did the mice happen or it didn't happen? Did you learn or you didn't learn? Did you do his boinanus or you didn't do his boinanus? That's the matter. And anything that might be the most innocent and the most right, and whatever that may be, the reasoning, who cares? Whatever that was that held you from doing, it's not coming from the side of Kedusha, period. And then now I did not make it up. It's the Rebbe's Torah. The Rebbe says over and over, Hamaisu Aikar. The main thing is whether you did it or not. And learning is an action. Learning there is an action.
Can I just add to that? I think there's also that in chapter 1, in many ways, he set out a methodology. What Mila is saying is, are you learning? That's the most important thing. But then the methodology is orech, rochav, omek. And, if you don't know what that means, go look at chapter 1. Are you still in orech? And if you didn't get out of orech yet, it's okay. It means that you need to get real clarity about the pshat, whether it's in a comic book form as you talk about it or something else. And then you shift once you know the pshat really, really well, and you can talk about it at length. Then you go into rochav, where you're making associations and, you're really looking at it from all angles. And then the trick is to know how to go into omek. So I don't know if that also speaks to your question.
So sorry. So if you too saw somebody produce a comic book for kids on Shar Yichud in the Middle Rebbe, would you be happy
or
I mean, obviously, you'd be happy. Okay, fine.
For sure. I mean, listen, that's on the contrary. Whenever somebody produces a comic book, it shows of how much omek they had. So they could have such an orech. Because remember, orech and is an indication of omek. If you're going to bake a Shara Yichud cake, that would be like, whoa, why not? dense, It's like, it doesn't matter. That means you've processed it so much that even comes out in your baking. Because what is Shara Yichud? Let's just plainly. Shara Yichud has one and only agenda, is to reveal how God is right here, right now, right in front of your face. So you're baking a cake with that awareness. So then you dance with that awareness. That's the gist of it. Okay, I'll tell you a funny story that I heard from To Know and to Care book. Somebody gave it to me as a present, so I, read before I go to sleep. There was one chassid who was working diligently to make sure that the Rebbe is going to take vacation. Okay, so he came and he was persuading the Rebbe, let's get vacation. Even the previous Rebbeim had something which is called dacha. Dacha is a vacation house. So that was his argument. He's like, the Rebbe doesn't want to take a vacation. It's like, let's make a vacation. So the Rebbe smiled when he brought that argument that previous Rebbeim also had vacation time. He said, in previous generations, when Hasidim would sit and learn, the Rebbe could take vacation. He says, in our generation, it's Hasidim who take vacation. So the Rebbe has to stay and learn. Okay, so if we want to give a Rebbe a little vacation, let's sit and learn.
Okay. So, let's try and get our heads back to after 2 weeks of Chag, beautiful Hanukkah, all the lights, all kinds of things happening. And I want to do a short summary of chapter 3 for us, just to bring us up to speed, because we've done from paragraphs 1 to 10. And now from paragraphs 11 onwards, we're starting, and it's not a completely new idea. It's an extension of what we're doing, but it's a new insight. So I just want to make sure that we all kind of up to speed. So first of all, Mila, I didn't pass this by you, but this is what occurred to me. In paragraphs 1 to 4 of chapter 3, what happens? So I want to take you back to chapter 1, paragraph 1, where Reb Hillel began with the Shema. And he showed us that the Shema is listening, which is hisbonenus. Do you remember that? It was a long time ago, but that's where he started. And did he ever mention the Shema again? In chapter 1 or chapter 2? No. So what? He just left us hanging. That was just like a nice little hanger to hang it on. Well, I thought so until we came to chapter 3. Because in the first 4 paragraphs of chapter 3, what I see Reb Hillel doing is he takes everything that we learned in chapter 1 and everything that we learned in chapter 2 and brings it together and shows us how it plays out in the Shema prayer. Not just the first line, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, but also Baruch Shem, and then also the first paragraph, V'hafta, etc., etc. And so in the first chapter with paragraph 1, he was saying to us, there's this question here. Now you need to know all of this information, all of chapter 1, all of chapter 2, and now I can tell you how it plays out in the Shema and how Shema is hisbonenus. So that's the first 4 paragraphs of chapter 3. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if it doesn't seem to make sense to you, go back and just read through even the summaries of those paragraphs, and you'll see it's amazing. He brought us full circle and answered this question about the Shema and hisbonenus. And then And then he continues in paragraphs 5 to 10, which we've learned in the last few weeks. He begins something new, which is a detailed Hisbonenus meditation on Memalei Kol Almin, which is how Hashem's light manifests in this physical dimension. And Reb Hillel begins by showing us that the way we think of the transmission of light or information is based on our experience in the physical world, which is in the form of yesh to yesh. Like that's how we think. Because in the physical world, everything seems to be yesh to yesh. So then he tells us there's yesh to yesh gashmi, like giving money or giving water. And there's also yesh to yesh rochni, which is like a teacher giving information to a pupil. But they still both yesh to yesh. And because we don't understand, we have this yesh to yesh mindset, we misunderstand two things about how Hashem's light manifests in this world. So he presents two questions that we will misunderstand. And he says he says it's the question of the philosophers, but nevertheless, I think each one of us needs to find where these questions really touch us on a personal level, so that when we hear the answer, it's a real answer. It's not just like something philosophical. So these are the two questions that we must understand. We think it's impossible for Hashem to create a world and not be changed by his creation in any way. Because with yesh to yesh, both something changes. Okay, the second question is, we think it's impossible for something infinite to create something finite, because in the physical world, the creator and the created are similar to each other in some way. So if I create something, there's some kind of similarity between me and what I create. There's some error there. Okay, so then he brings the mashal of the light of the sun to help us to understand how Hashem can create the world and not be changed by it. So he shows us, that sunlight can shine in many places at once and appear different in each place based on the kalim of the makabel. So, for example, if you have colored glass windows, so then you'll see the sunlight as a particular color, but it doesn't change the essence of the sunlight itself. The only change is in the perception of the makabel. So, and then to answer the second question, how infinite can create finite, we explored the process of the tzimtzum, where Hashem's infinite light is hidden and a new limited light is created. So that's just a very broad picture of what we looked at in these 5 to 10, paragraphs 5 to 10. So in paragraph 10, Reb Hillel summarizes these 5 paragraphs. And I'm not sure, Mila, should we go into breakout rooms to look at the summary, or should we just read it and then move on? What do you think? They're not so many.
Let's ask a group what they want to do.
Okay. So you could look at the summary of paragraph 10. We can read it together, or we can go into breakout rooms. What would you prefer to do?
Together.
Okay. Anybody else?
Together.
Oh, really? I thought you guys liked breakout rooms. No? Really? Okay. All right. So then, as you can hear, I'm a bit sick, so I'm going to ask somebody to read it. I put it on the WhatsApp group, and I'm going to share it here. Oh, no, that's not that. It's not that either. There we go. it a bit bigger. All right, so can somebody volunteer to read this? If we're going to do it together, then I need somebody to volunteer to read it.
Okay, I guess if nobody else will.
So first of all, as I said, I think that it's really important to try and find the question inside of yourself on some level. Like to find, I mean, I'll give you an example. Sometimes maybe you feel like, or you have thought or felt like, who am I? How can Hashem has billions of people and really important people to take care of. How can Hashem be looking after me and billions of other people in like a very detailed, intimate way? How can that be? So I don't know, have you ever had that thought somewhere in the back of your mind, like, how can Hashem be with me fully?
I think there's a difference between having that question as a wonder, like seeing it as how amazing it is, or as a doubt. It's two different ways of having the
Right.
question.
Now, I'm not saying chas v'sholom as a doubt, but it can be also more as just like a feeling. Also, I mean, maybe in the realm of doubt, but it can, it can be that a sense of, I'm just bringing it as an example of how this question, this answer can answer a question like that. Of the light shining everywhere and being different in every place. So what I'm saying is that, if you don't find these questions inside of you, then the answers are also pretty meaningless. It just can feel theoretical.
I still find that the answers we can never understand. It's like we can't understand how Hashem can be everywhere, and even an answer won't satisfy that. And it's just because that's Hashem, and Hashem is everywhere.
Hey, but here he gives the answer. He describes in detail how sunshine works.
Yeah, but it still doesn't like give me that like that sunshine. It's like sunshine is so far removed from Hashem.
Okay, so partly you're right, and that's why in paragraph 11 he's going to say, well, sunshine is not a complete mashal, and so we need to do 4 other mashalim. We need to give you 4 other mashalim because there's something about sunshine that is a little bit removed. But try and understand at least the concept that the sunshine brings a little bit closer to your mind, the possibility that even in Gashmiut, in Yesh, in like the physical world, that there's the existence of such a thing as something being everywhere simultaneously and also manifesting in different ways. So it brings it, like he says, a little bit closer to your mind. It may not satisfy you completely, but don't dismiss it. But
it's not that I dismiss it. It's like when I heard that question years ago, it was like, wow, that's incredible that Hashem is listening to everyone's prayers simultaneously, and I don't feel a need to know how, because I feel like I can't understand that. But it's like fascinating, and that gives me an insight as to how great Hashem is that he can do that.
So I guess what we're doing here is going into the details in order to bring it closer to our rational mind as well, so that it's not just in the realm of emunah, but he's showing us, different ways in which we can think about the way in which Hashem's light manifests in the world. Anyway, you can see it for yourself. The thing is to use it as a meditation and see what it clarifies for you, or how it's, yeah, I don't know. Okay. So, Alkalea, you said you're going to read for us? Alkalea, are you there?
Yeah, I just turned on my sound.
Okay, so here we go.
So this is the summary of the two questions of the philosophers and their resolution. The first question: how can something limited come from something unlimited? Human logic says that an effect must resemble its cause. If Hashem is infinite, how can finite, limited worlds emerge from him? The answer he gives here: creation happens through tzimtzum, a total concealment of the infinite light. This is not a gradual weakening, but a dilug, ha'erech, a leap beyond all proportionality. Through his concealment, a new kind of divine expression, a limited energy, emerges. Because Hashem is truly infinite, he can fully hide his light to the point that something entirely unlike him, finite existence, can come forth. Only an infinite being can create something not resembling himself.
That's an incredible statement. Only an infinite being can create something not resembling himself. Okay.
Much. Second question: if Hashem enlivens the worlds and is within them, how does he undergo change?
Does he undergo a change?
If Hashem enlivens the worlds and is within them, does he undergo change? Thank you. Before creation, he was alone. Now he animates countless beings. Before creation, he was not enclosed in anything. Now he gives life to all beings. Does that mean he changed, heaven forbid? Answer: creation does not take place within the essence of Hashem. It comes only from his radiance, Ziv, which does not occupy space in his essence and does not affect him at all. Even while his light enlivens the worlds, he remains unchanged, exactly as before. This is proven at the Yetzias Mitzrayim, where the same divine revelation simultaneously produced opposites: plague for Egypt and healing for Israel. This shows that Hashem is not bound or defined by any particular mode of revelation. He remains above all of them and may express contradictory effects at once. Hashem invests his light in creation, yet he remains beyond all worlds, and his essence experiences no change whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say something from what was just read?
Yes.
Regarding that Hashem is there listening to us. Then what I understand from that is that the part of Hashem that is relating to us is just a ray of Hashem. It's not like Hashem in his full power. I'm not sure. Is that what it's saying?
So, you know, here we're just reading summaries. There were other places where he emphasized again and again that even though the light is healed, is the essence is still transmitted. There's
Yeah.
no change in the essence, and so the essence is what we relate to on a certain level.
But then a ray of the sun would relate to the ziv of Hashem. The metaphor makes more sense then in terms of a ziv is
The ray.
a ray. Yeah. So
Wait a minute. I'm not sure that I'm understanding your question or answering it correctly. You're asking if what we're relating to in this world is just the light of Hashem, not Hashem himself,
yeah.
based on
And that then the metaphor of the sun's rays would make more sense. Because it's like a ray of Hashem, but in its full essence, but it's a ray.
so that's also where we have to understand that in, you know, like every mashal, it's not precise because there's no mashal in the physical world that's exactly like Hashem. But so
Yeah.
it tells you about part of it. And I'm trying to think where, let me just have a look here. Where he speaks about in this chapter, where he's very clear and emphasizes that
Yeah, one mashal does not. That's paragraph 11, actually, that we're going to be learning today, that one mashal is not enough to really cover all the aspects. So therefore, we need 5 mashalim. 4 mashalim we're going to use.
right. The question is whether we're interacting really with just like a ray of Hashem as opposed to Hashem's essence. And
no, we're not. We're not interacting with the only ray of Hashem because it's koach ha'etzem that's really only because of koach ha'etzem we're able to see something infinite creating finite. Also, Hashem is above infinity as well. So infinity, it's also a creation. The way we know Hashem, whether infinite or finite, it's all irrelevant when we are talking about his essence. Because any term that we're going to use implying to Hashem, it's not going to be accurate. Why? Because, you know, even David HaMelech in Tehillim says, right? And silence is a praise for you. How could silence be a praise? Because no matter what we're going to say, it's not going to be it. So we just keep quiet.
but there was a place earlier, and also Amelia, you spoke about it, where the tzimtzum is not kipshuta, meaning that it's
Right.
only from the perspective of the makabel.
Okay.
It's not, it's just like the mashal there is the ray of the sun, where it's like I see it as being green because of my window. But the sun itself, the ray is still essentially what it was. It doesn't change. So the same thing is with Hashem. Hashem doesn't change because of the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum is only from our perspective. It's not an actual symptom. It's just a result of our our kalim, which Hashem has given us. I mean, we just see, for example, I don't know if this is confusing the situation or not, but we know that our eyes are limited, that there's a huge spectrum of colors of things that we don't see. And Hashem creates those, gives us limited kalim because that's how he wants us to function in the world. But it doesn't mean that those other spectrums don't exist. They do. We just don't need to see them. So Hashem's essence is here, but we can't necessarily perceive it with our physical senses.
Yeah. Or we cannot perceive it with our physical senses yet.
It's true. There's a
So
lot that
when we work on ourselves, we can change that symptom.
Yes. Not change the symptom. We're going to change ourselves so we're no longer restricted by symptom. Symptom becomes irrelevant. For example, what is symptom? Let's say I'm going to tell you, I'm giving you a riddle, right? I'm going to tell you a riddle. A riddle is a symptom, right? Like you have to unpack the riddle. Once you unpack the riddle no longer conceals the message. I could continue speaking in riddles with you. You could answer me back in riddles, but these riddles mean nothing. They're not concealing. Once you decode, the code is no longer concealment, right? I mean, we could still use the code, but it's no longer concealment. So once we decode the symptom stops existing to us because we're no longer affected by it. Whether the world is going to continue existing through the symptom, fine. But it's no longer prevents us from relating to Hashem through the symptom. That's why in the times of Mashiach, the world is not going to disappear. We're not going to have anything extraordinary happening. It says, V'holam kamin hago, it's going to go as it is now. We're still going to cook. We're still going to eat. We're still going to socialize. So what's going to change? The perception is going to change, right? So the symptom that's right now creating the world, no longer going to be the concealment. Meaning we're going to decode the symptom. So the world is not going to disappear. There's certain elements that, for example, death, right? Certain elements that come because of the symptom are going to vanish, right? So the world will change, but not to such an extent where it's going to be a completely new reality. Well, it will be a completely new reality because right now we are looking through certain glasses, ones that lift, but we're still going to have sun and moon. Do you know what I mean? Like we're still going to have physical world. Physicality of the world is not going to vanish. It's just no longer going to conceal because we know the code.
So this is part of the code that we're learning.
Yes, very much so. Part of the codes.
Okay, so what happens, what he does in paragraph 11 is he says, all right, as Yoni was saying, I don't quite buy it. It's not enough. It doesn't help me enough to really understand Hashem. And he says, there are problems with that mashal on its own. And now we need some more mashalim in order to understand and to really meditate on Hashem in a deep way. In one of the earlier paragraphs, he mentioned how in order to just understand the basics, the orech of Bina, to, begin to bring the idea closer to your mind, Okay, so you can have one mashal, or you can have a few others. But if you really want to think deeply about something, if you want to go into the rochav of Bina and look at it from many different angles, then you have to have many mashalim, because there's no one mashal in this physical world that is going to exactly match Hashem. It's just, it's impossible if you think about it. So there'll be 4, 5 different mashalim that give us different aspects that we can contemplate in relation to Hashem. So let's go into paragraph 11.
See, somebody asked the question. The sun itself is a tzimtzum, yeah? So therefore, we need to have many different mashalim. So now we're going to be, Bezrat Hashem, starting paragraph 11 today. And it's a little bit long. But, it's not going to scare us because we're on a long journey here. Big deal. Okay, let me just share my... because now the real thing is happening, finally. After 2 years of us promising you a real thing, now it's a real one. Okay, let me
I kind of feel bad for the people who dropped out. It's like he was really preparing us for this is a real hisbonenus. This is like a detailed thinking about something, that's very abstract, using different mashalim. And this is what we've been waiting for. And yeah.
Okay.
Mila, can you make it bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Hamashal, or Hashemesh, lo yaspik. However, right, the mashal of the sun of the light is not sufficient. Lahavin kol pirtei hasagazos. Okay, sufficient to understand from it all the details of this comprehension, of this hasaga, of Memalei Kol Almin, the Memalei Kol Almin. ולכן צריך לגימל משלים אחרים, דאור הנר, וחיות הנפש, וכוח הפועל, וכו'. And therefore, the 3 other mashalim are needed. The light of the candle, the vitality of the soul, and the power of the activator. So that all the details of the comprehension will be understood. Right? So in order for us to understand Memalei Kol Almin, we need all 4 mashalim. Just the sun is not enough. The sun gives us one aspect, and we need to be able to know all of them, all the aspects, which is what? Dehine Gimel b'chines yesh b'chinas or eloki. Right? There are, in the divine light of Memalei Kol Almin, there are 3 aspects. Now, this you have to remember. I don't know what you're going to do. Put it on your fridge, in your phone, remind yourself, because this is the code for life. Then I'll explain you a little bit later on why. Just on this, one of the aspects that inspired me to do the River of Change course is specifically this paragraph. Is really to understand that Hashem works in this world through this prism of 3 realities, which are, right? Because there are 3 levels, okay? 3 aspects to it, which is what? B'chinas or, the aspect of light, or b'chinas chayus, right? The aspect of vitality, or b'chinas koach, and the aspect of force, power. Okay? Or b'chinas or, gam kein kolul mi beis b'chinas. Now, the aspect of light also is made up of 2 aspects. Okay? Or makif, yeah, the makif or, the encompassing light, or b'chinas or pnimi, and the or pnimi, right, the inner light. Okay, so now let's just pause. What are we talking about? If I am to create a diagram right now of what he just said, what am I going to do? Okay, right now, take a piece of paper, please write, or chayus, koach. Okay, because the light of Hashem, it's not just a light. Okay, and we're going to talk about it, why the mashal of the sun was not good enough. The light of Hashem enlivens and creates. The light of sun doesn't enliven and doesn't create. Maximum what it does a photosynthesis. That's all. Okay, so that's why we're needing the other mashalim to it. Okay, so we're writing or chayut koach. Okay, or is on top, koach is on the bottom, because that's how the symptom happens. Okay, from or to chayut to koach. We have it. From or, you're going to put 2 arrows. Okay, and that's going to be, on top is going to be or makif, the encompassing light, the or pnimi, the inner light. Okay, that's it. Just hold it. We're going to go back to the text. V'hine or hashemesh hami'ir la'aretz anu ro'im she'einu ma'ir uba rag b'derech Hashraa. So now, with or hashemesh, let me ask you a quick question. Or hashemesh, to which category is going to be out of 3? Just a guess. Is it going to be or? Is it going to be chayut, or is it going to be koach?
Or.
Beautiful, amazing. So now we're going to be working with or. Okay. Now, when we see, right, regarding the sunlight that shines upon the earth, right, we see that it shines and reaches only in the matter of Hashraa. So what's Hashraa? It's a fancy word. It's a resting and settling upon, meaning it just covers. What is it shining on? Okay. Very interesting observation. I don't know any science about it. He's going to give us his logic. Ve'ein lo his achdus klal. And he has no true unification at all. Okay. In pirte hanivraim. Okay. With particular created beings. Okay. Which are the created beings? Created beings usually go through 4 categories. Okay. This is doimem, stands for dalet. Tzomeach stands for vegetation. Chai, right? That's like, animals. U medaber is human beings, right? So the creation itself has 4 levels: inanimate, plant, animal, and human. Shaba'ila, right? So that encompasses all of creation. All of creation is made out of these 4 categories. Okay. So now the light of the sun, he says, doesn't have true unification with all particular created beings. This in this physical world. Because if we look at the sun, in essence, it's a more spiritual thing. You'll be like, excuse me, sun is a physical object, right? But let me explain you how. Kamavor Rambam, right? As explained by Rambam, the Galgalim hem Geshem Chamishi, right? That the Galgalim, the spheres, are 5th substance. Nivdal midalit yisodis agashmi, that is distinct from the 4 physical elements, which are what? Ve'ein laim tam v'lo reach v'chu, and they have neither taste nor smell, etc. What are the 4 elements? We all know it, right? Who wants to name 4 elements? We're waiting for the 11th attendee. We're missing somebody. Okay. What are the 4 elements?
Air, fire, water, and earth.
And what? Air, fire, water, and?
Earth.
Yes. So these are the 4 elements. Okay. So now the Rambam is saying that Galgalim, the spheres, right, which is the sun and everything that's other than earth, it's a 5th element. It's not from this world. Okay. So when we say that the sun is something out of this world, that's what we mean. It's not, right? It's not part of this physicality. It's something different. Okay. If you taste the sun, it's not, it's not the same. It's not the same as you taste the fire in the candle. Okay, so why this is important for us to know? And from that source, which means the sun, there is drawn and bestowed downwards an aspect of physical light, or gashmi benivraim, right? The physical light, which creates, within the created beings. But it's not truly physical light. It's physical only compared to his spiritual source. But compared to the nivraim, the sunlight is considered to be a spiritual thing. Okay, compared to the inanimate plant, animal, and human category. Therefore, it's not really uniting with them at all. It's benefiting them. But the sunlight doesn't unite with them. Okay? So the sunlight has an aspect of that he could cover the whole earth. That's what we're taking from the mashal of the sun. But it has a chisaron, right? It has a lack that it doesn't unify with the creation. Therefore, we need another mashal that will have the same properties of light has, but unifies. You see where we're heading? Okay, with it. And now, what would be that mashal? Somebody wants to ask a question?
Yeah, Mila, but what about like what the sun causes besides the light? I mean, heat, and that it causes growth.
Photosynthesis, yes.
Because when it
in
says
plants,
here, it does not. What?
Yeah, photosynthesis it's called, right? The plants benefit from it for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
but that's what he says. Are we benefiting from the sun? Yeah, but it's not uniting it. So we need to understand, what do you mean uniting it? Like it doesn't become part of this world. What's unifications? We will understand when we're going to learn the mashal of the candle, how the fire unites. Masha'enkin or haner, right? The light of the candle is not like that. In contrast, there's the light of a candle. Or hanimshach mi'esha yisodi. The light that has been drawn down from the candle, right, is drawn from the elemental fire, right? It's a part of this world. There's a fire there. One of the elements is fire. Right, which is also one of the 4 elements. That's in this world. Right? But it's more spiritual out of the 4. Right? We all know that. That in the 4 elements. The most spiritual one is the fire. How it goes, it's earth, water, air, and fire. But it's still within the category. So he's compatible with them. And therefore it's able to unite with them. Okay, so how does that happen? How he unites with them? Let's look at it. that through its uniting with the oil and the wick, lechaloisam, to consume them, nitafes ba'or, additional light is being added to it. And therefore, the more, in exact proportion of the oil, this will be the duration of the light. We know this from Hanukkah, right? We're coming off from Hanukkah. How you make sure you have long candle, you add more oil. Right? And we see that this light comes in the way of or chozer, returning light. Milamata lemala, from below to above. Alidei kilyon hashemesh, through its consumption of oil. And automatically it is understood that this light is more felt, mi'or hashemesh, than from the light of the shemesh. Okay? So now we see fire looks up, right? You look at the fire, the flame, it goes up, it looks up. Right? You look at the sun, it goes up, down. So now we're going to go back to our chart that we are creating by the or, right? Remember I told you to make 2 arrows? On the top of one, you're going to write over there or hashemesh, a sunlight. Okay? You could draw like a little sun or part of the sun, right? And you're going to make an arrow down because the sun is shining up, down. Okay. Then on a lower arrow, you're gonna write or haner. Okay, the light of the candle. And obviously you take a look at the flame. The flame goes up. Okay, so that's down, up. Or chozer, you're gonna write. Okay, you're gonna put or chozer. Now, who remembers how he identified them earlier? He said or makif and or pnimi. Remember that? What's or makif is going to be? Now think. What alludes to or makif? Sun or the candle?
Sun.
Amazing. Beautiful. That's a right conclusion from the text. Although he's not directly implying that, because now he's adding or yashar and or chozer. But that's what it is. Because the sun just rests, doesn't unite. So that cannot be or pnimi. Right? If something only resting upon and it's not uniting with it, it cannot be or pnimi. Or pnimi is when I go inside of me. Okay? So that's going to be right. Now, ner is automatically going to be what? Or pnimi. So here we go. We're already creating clarity here. We have or, goes into 2 categories. Okay? Or hashemesh or haner. And that's or makif or yashar. The candle will be or pnimi or chozer. Okay? So here we go. You have your diagram. Now we have clarity about why we need 2 masholim. Because the sun covers the fact that he's able to have this unlimited quality to shine upon the earth and cover all of it. Okay? Equally, abundantly. Okay? But it's missing the point that it's not unifying with creation. Now, or haner, the light of a candle, covers that aspect. Okay?
So, Mila, does he go back and talk more about the...
Oh, for sure. The whole 3rd chapter is going to be cooking all this.
Okay, so he's just laying out the general groundwork.
Exactly, yes.
Because it doesn't seem to make sense when he says that the light of the candle was more felt. Because...
Well, it is more felt because you it's a reality. I mean, you literally, first of all, it's much closer to us. We see the light, we could touch it. You cannot touch a sunlight. Touch a sunlight.
But the
What you gonna
impact is much smaller.
Oh, for sure. That's why it's or pnimi.
Right.
The candle is like, I mean, in the proximity.
So it's
right?
like Mer
I mean,
Hashem,
how exactly? I mean, how many times candle is smaller than the sun? If you could just like, it's like even ridiculous to calculate, right? If you just imagine. I mean, even if you have a torch compared to the sun, like it's a joke, right? It's so insignificant, but yet we use candles all the time. Imagine we wouldn't have electricity. I think electricity is part of being a candle, I would say. Right? It goes into the category of a candle. So
right.
what's the story with it? Like, okay, let's go. Ach yesh shnei bechinos, right? There are two aspects. Hemrag bechinos or bilvat. Meaning, no, I'm sorry. Shnei bechinos. These two aspects have only in a category of light, bilvat. They're only in a category of light. We don't see that they enliven anything. They just spread light. They don't give life to anything. They could facilitate life, like sun. Makes plants grow better, etc. But it's not actually creating those plants, right? Doesn't enliven them. Bechinas chayut nefesh. Therefore, we need additional mashal. There's two masholim are not enough. Bechinas chayut nefesh beguf. But the aspect of the soul's vitality, al yidei shaf'a shemashpia b'ivrei haguf. But the soul, the vitality of the soul, if we look at it, how the soul enlivens the body through its flow that is bestowed into the limbs of the body, actually gives them life, right? And anybody who works in the medical field know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? People who saw people die know exactly what I'm talking about, right? All of a sudden, a human being that have been running around, alive, flexible, warm, becomes a piece like of meat. I'm sorry for using this expression. It's very unsensitive to use this expression, but that's just what it becomes. I mean, even if you see birds, I mean, if you didn't have a chance, like not a chance to see somebody pass away, but like, if dead animals, you see them, I mean, they just become like a rock. What happened? So chayus, the life force, went away. So from this we learn what this life force does when it is within the body. It gives them life, whatever the life is. So what is it? We see, when we're talking about the light, now we're going back to the sun. Okay? Anybody did Tanya yesterday? Okay, so he's talking about this punishments, right? Kafakela, chibuda kever, right? This horrible punishment. You're like, oh my God, right? Hayom Yom of yesterday gives us some help with that, right? Well, all the Chassidim know that when you go back and forth through mashalim, you ayaytz all that, okay? Because now, what does this mean? You're not going to be suffering, because that's exactly what's happening with you now. Right now, we have to live to this, and we have to go back to mashal of the sun, and then we're going to go back to mashal of the life force of the soul, and then we're going to go back to mashal of the candle, and we're going to like work with our brain. So that's it. We're going to be yoytz of this punishment, okay? In case you were fearing when you were reading that. So that's what we're going to do. Davara mitpashet bo, right? So we see that the idea is that the light of the sun or the candle has no real connection with the thing within which it spreads. Like a candlelight, right? Or haner Hamir babais. Shelo nishtane hamakom. Right? Like the candlelight shining in a house. The space is not changed because of it. It's illuminated, but it's not changed. Machmato, right? Ki hu gashmi, כבתחילה, וגם האור לא נשתנה מרוחניותו. ולכן נקרא שפע זאת שפע דרך השרה בלבד. Right? For it remains physical as it was at first, meaning the house remains physical as it was at first. And the light too has not changed from its relative spirituality. Therefore, this flow is called a flow that is only in the manner of Hashraa. Hashraa meaning it's resting upon it. It's not becomes one with it. And it's not like this, the light force of the soul. It has such connection with the limbs of the body. Okay. This is an interesting word. Remember, we learned this word in the first chapter when we were discussing a beautiful building. When we were talking about, right? So this body becomes blended within them. Bahem mikol emer lefi mizgo. Right? It becomes blended with them, each limb according to its makeup and characteristics or constitution. Betchunato. ולכן החיות משתנה ממהות חיות רוחני למהות חיות גשמי. And therefore the vitality changes from nature of spiritual vitality to the nature of physical vitality. Okay? How do we know that? Well, we see that like you are experiencing it, okay? Like right now, I guarantee you that 10 people in this Zoom room are alive. Okay? So we're literally right now experiencing our soul enlivening us. Okay? And at that moment, this spiritual life force that is capable to enliven the entire city is enlivening only us. Okay? And what happens through this? This spiritual life force of the soul becomes the actual life force of our human body, making all the complex things run in our body in a perfect way, right? Because obviously, you know, you're quite healthy to come here to this room and want to do certain things, right? And I don't have to convince you how complex our bodies are, from hormones to you know, all the system, the nervous system, you know, the cardiovascular system. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so you know, whatever I know. Okay, and all these things, these are the systems that are running and flowing right now. Me speaking right now, it's a whole complex chain of my soul descent into my mouth, into my 5 structures of my speech apparatus. Okay, so I could say what my mind is thinking right now. Okay, now that's the vitality that the soul is capable of doing. Oh, now we are talking about. So when we look at how the soul enlivens the body, all of a sudden, it's not just a sun shining or a candle burning. And then, you know, night becomes, where's sun? We don't know. The candle extinguishes, becomes dark again. It doesn't changes the actual physicality of the world. While the light of the soul does changes the physical body, and we know it very well. Okay, v'gam ha'ivrim mishtanim mimousam. And not only that it becomes one and enlivens them, but the limbs also change from the former state. They were a piece of meat, and now they are alive. That before there was no chayut in them, felt, and now they are alive. Right, from the chayus, from the life force of the soul that is being drawn down into them. So now, The vitality doesn't just come as just like one, boom. No, it comes in different levels. In every single level, in every single limb, according to its level. But it's not like this when we look at the mashal of the light. That when the sun shines, it doesn't say, I'm shining on a hospital. Maybe I should shine a little bit stronger. Well, I'm shining at this little small plant, and if I'm going to shine a little bit stronger, it's going to burn. And it's a straw here. Maybe I shouldn't shine there at all. Otherwise, it's going to be, I don't know, fire there. I know it just shines as it's supposed to shine at that particular season, right? That's it. It doesn't have a calculation. A sun doesn't have an intellect on its own that makes decisions how much he should shine where. It's a set, and if anybody wants to look at Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer, he talks about the 28-year cycle of the sun. That's set, and that's how sun shines, and that's why in some countries it's hotter, in some countries it's colder, and a whole maslul, a whole pathway of the sun. Okay? Anyway, we're going to come back to this discussion that we're having here, but it shines as it is. It doesn't make a difference. Like, oh, this baby is really cold. Okay, let me shine more on them. No, it shines bashva, right? It shines the whole space equally. But the shefa of the soul is not in the derech hashra, hashva, right? It's not just resting, and it's equally. This shefa is in the derech islapshus, right? It comes down in a manner of islapshus, enclothement. It's actually encloses itself in the body. Okay. Ach bechinas chayus kanal hagam sheba murgash beivri haguf. Now we need to find the deficit of this mashal, right? That we need to do the mashal, another one. The last one that we have. But yet this vitality, although it is felt in the lymph of the body, it's nevertheless simple vitality, right? Right? It's a simple vitality. We're going to talk about what it means simple vitality versus complex. Right? And although the sensations of the limb feel, okay, is also simple, right? It's also simple. Obviously, everybody, all the limbs feel very much that they're alive from the soul that is enclosed within them. But it has a different problem. The problem is, right? And it's not like this when we are looking at the power of movement, and action. What happens then? For example, I'm alive right now. But now I'm taking my hand and I'm putting on this, right? The one that, I don't know if you see what I'm holding. It's my mouse, my computer mouse, right? To move. What happens at that moment? My hand has a capacity to move at any direction at any time. It could go right, it could go left. I could, pick up this finger, that finger, 2 fingers, 5 fingers at the same time. At the same time, I'm choosing now to scroll the text. What happens? I do tzimtzum, right? My choice of my desire to give this class that I need to scroll the text, right? Now, from all the possibilities that I could have done with the chayus that right now enlivens this particular organ of mine, right, has to do with tzimtzum. Koach atnova pulu hu ma shemitzamtzem hachayus shebayad. right? The vitality of the hand becomes constricted and becomes a particular power. When I say koach prati, becomes a particular power. That from this, it becomes only a movement. You see the difference? It's not a general power that keeps it alive, but it's a particular power. It's not chayus anymore. It's a koach. It's a power to make this particular movement. First of all, it mislabish into a movement, and then making this particular movement. It's even more tzimtzum. You see the difference? Okay, now we see people who are attached to all these machines or whatever, or they are in coma or whatever the story may be. They have chayus in the body. They have no problem with chayus in the body. But the problem with koach. Okay. Okay. So there is not that symptom, that lowering of that general power that keeps them alive, the heart beating, but it's more of a particular power for the mind to think, for the ears to hear, for the nose to smell, for the mouth to taste, for the feet to walk, for hands to make movements, and so on and so forth. Okay, so for that, we need koach. So we're moving from chayus. Okay, remember, your table has now 3 things. The or we discussed, chayut we discussed. Now we're moving from chayut to koach. Okay, so now we need specifications from each limb having its own category of what this limb could do and what particular thing that particular limb is going to do. Okay? Right? And it's very similar to the power of the intellect in the brain. Right? It would be really funny that all of a sudden my brain is going to make movements and my hand is going to think. Yeah? Let's imagine if something messes up in the system. Okay? But Hashem designed this, that's how the soul enlivens. Hainu, which means al yidei slapshus hanefesh bekelim, right? Through the soul enclosements in the kelim chitzonim, in the external kelim. Hanikre gidei dam. So now take a deep breath. We're going to go into very specific, okay? So now we're going to go outside in, okay? The external, because we're talking about koach right now, right? The external vessels are called gidei dam, which is blood capillaries. It's not just blood vessels. It's a specification. It's called blood capillaries. Right? That's more on the external, right? As explained elsewhere. Right? So now, you put a slash by the koach, you're going to write over the capillaries. Okay? Okay, but the life force, again, the chayus, once the chayus gets caught up in the kalim, in the inner kalim, and in the intermediate kalim, which are what? Which is gidei hargasha v'gidei hadoifet, right? Which is nerves and arteries. So the nerves are going to go to or. Okay, and arteries are going to go to chayus. Okay, it's going to come. The puzzle is coming together. We're going to come out with a nice tape. Okay, so gidei dofek is going to be the middle. So now we also learn there are 3 types of kalim. Right? By or, we're going to put over there kalim pnimi. It's in the kalim. You see, he's giving us bits and pieces, and we are forming a bigger picture with it. Now, chayus is going to be kalim emtsaim, the intermediary kalim, and koach is going to be kalim chitzonim. Makes sense, right? So we're talking about from in out. So you have your brain, your heart, and your liver. Each one of them has different power systems, right? So your brain would be what? Look at the table that you're creating. Your brain would be what? Oh, 11th one came in. Shalom. We needed an 11th power to answer this question. We have koach, chayus. I'm sorry. We have or, chayus, koach. Everybody has that? Yeah, you could raise your hands in the system here. Okay, everybody has. Okay. Then we have the masholim, right? That we should have already. We have kelim pnimiyim is going to be what?
That's the brain.
Amazing. Which is going to be? Is it going to be or? Is it going to be chayus or is it going to be koach?
Oh, it's or.
Amazing. Yes.
With the nerves.
Amazing. Yes. That nobody has any questions, right? The brain, the spinal cord and the nerves, they are in a kelim. Okay. The spinal cord and the nerves have only one function, is to send messages of the brain into the entire body. Right? Okay, now let me ask you, heart is what?
Chayut.
Beautiful, exactly. Heart is a life force. Anybody watched the heart pumping over and over without any stop? That's chayus, that's vitality, that's its job. Pumping, pumping, over and over. Okay? Now, liver is a mystical organ, right? Is responsible for channeling this chayus, which is a general chayus that comes through our arteries, gidei dofek, right? Where do you feel the pulse? Pulse, yeah? Dofek is pulse. This is arteries. Gidei dofek, right? Channeling it to particular organs through its filtration and all whatever else it's doing, right? Channeling the blood to where each organ should be receiving it. Now, I did not check any medical books about it. This is simply from the text. Ve'ena rag b'chinas chayus, right? The gidei dofek, it's only the chayus. Bilvad, lemala mebchinas koach badal. Right? This is above koach. The chayus. So now what's koach? No, so let's read the next passage. Ubederach klal, and in general, bechinas mezigas hanefesh bedam, right? The blending of the soul within the blood. Nikra bechinas koach. That's already becomes koach. Shehu koach klali shebo, which is the general power that's in it. Okay, nimdadim kol koiches hapratim be'elem. At first, all particular powers are measured in a concealed way. And after that, they come into revelation. Kol ever shelo, kol echad be'ever shelo. Each one of them in its own limb. V'zeu ki hadam hu nefesh. Right? That's what we say, that dam is nefesh. Okay. We're almost done. V'zeu b'chinas nefesh hashura bekaved. And this corresponds to the level of nefesh, which rests in the liver. Okay? So now you're going to put brain in or, heart in chayut, and liver in koach. Okay? And now he says, reveals another layer. Okay? Which is nefesh. So where would nefesh go from the text? Is it going to go with the liver, with the heart, or with the brain? Where nefesh goes?
Everywhere.
No, liver. It goes with liver. He just said it. V'zeu b'chinas nefesh hashura b'kaved. And this is corresponds to the level of nefesh that rests in liver. Okay. Masha'enken ruach chayim. But it's not like this ruach chayim. You see, like the Torah doesn't waste its words. Where now the level of ruach is being revealed? Ruach chayim. The word itself has already, like, you can't go wrong with that. Ruach chayim. Where you think it rests?
Chayut.
Exactly, in the heart. Beautiful. Chayus. Ruach chayun, ruach hachayim shebelev. Shenikra ruach, sheirikra b'chinas ruach, right? That is called the level of ruach. Hu b'chinas chayus is the aspect of chayus. And obviously, b'chinas neshama, and where neshama rests.
In the brain, the or.
Shebamoach, very good. Hu b'chinas or is the aspect of light. Rak shehu b'chinas or pnimi. But neshama is or pnimi. Or makif. And the or makif is going to be what? Hu b'chinas or makif, the chaya and yechida. This is the level of chaya and yechida. Here we go. You have your 5 levels of your soul. Okay? Or encompasses 3 levels. Or makif is chaya and yechida because it doesn't come in the derech of islapshus. Okay? Or pnimi is going to be your neshama. Chayus is going to be your heart and ruach. Okay? And kaved, your liver, is going to be nefesh. Okay, now. Ki benefesh yesh kol b'chines. Now he says, you know what? Truly, we don't need or hashemesh and or haner. Because you see, in the nefesh, we have all 5 levels. We have or hanefesh, meaning the way the soul enlivens the body has all, it's a perfect mashal for how Hashem creates the world. Memalei Kol Almin. Okay. But it's not good enough. Why? Why we need to have this additional 2 mashalim? You know, it's enough. Chayut hanefesh v'koach hapoel b'nifal. Right? That's good enough. No. Why it's not good enough? Rak she'einam niglim b'nefesh, they are not really revealed in the soul. And therefore, we need this 2 additional mashalim. Shuhu or hashemesh or haner. Okay? This is the sunlight and the candle. Why? Because, you know, maybe now we wouldn't need. But in olden days, they didn't know all the medical research about, you know, the brain actually sends an electrical signals. They knew it. But how can you bring a mashal? The mashal needs something that will bring close to your brain. Oh, koach hatnua, for sure. I could see here, I'm moving my hand up and down. That's something tangible. But you're going to tell me 200 years ago about what's happening in my brain. I cannot witness it. It doesn't make sense to me. I understand that it's there. That's why it was behelim. Maybe now it makes it a little bit easier. I mean, now people, you know, have videos about the, you know, synaptic connections happening in brains. Okay, good. I mean, we're talking about a few years ago that was not accessible. Even now it's a novelty. Okay, that's unfolding in front of us. But before we didn't have that. They didn't have brain scans to understand how brain operates. They knew it from Kabbalah. They didn't know from a medical field. That was no research done. like to show hands-on. So therefore, we needed or Hashemesh and or Haner to understand the aspect of the or. But truly, everything could be covered with how the soul enlivens the body. Besides one fact, the soul doesn't create the body. Okay? I know that you're all very confused with everything we're discussing here. But this is, it's a thesis, right? It's a thesis. He puts everything in it. And then the later paragraphs are going to unfold it one by one. Okay, but at least we have the map, which is very congealed. So what the best would be if you could, organize your map, the levels of soul, organs of the body, or koach, or koach, the mashalim lined up. So you have this map, this clarity. It's like, oh, that's what we are talking about. Okay. That's amazing. Like next time you're going to see in the mashal, chayus, you will know, oh, that refers to the level of ruach, that refers to the level of the heart, that refers to the mashal of chayut hanefesh. You understand what I mean? Like that's what you're going to have, this reference point in your mind already instilled. And has to go, you have to know it by heart. Literally, like with closed eyes. I'm going to tell you what's koach. Koach is liver energy. Okay? Koach is a very specific movement. In koach, he already described the symptom that happens, which is my brain to think, and now I'm thinking a specific thought. Okay, there's two levels, right? In koach. Now, my hand to move, and my hand moving a specific movement.
It's a lot of information because he creates so many layers of meaning with these three categories.
Yeah, but welcome to the club. That's what it is. What do you think?
Well,
We're trying to understand Hashem. And we're working on a Memalei level. We're not even touching Yehudat Ilah. This is Yehudat Tata.
What's hard to remember, like in studying this, it's hard to even remember that you're studying about Hashem, because we're just trying to understand the mashalim on their literal level. Never mind how.
So that he's going to put it in a nimshal. The paragraph 12. It's a very short paragraph when he says, "But we cannot appreciate nimshal. We have to sit on it for another class. We're not going to paragraph 12. We need to create a very clear, structured table on our own. Read this 100 times. I don't know how long you need to read it. Create that clarity, categories. This is Iyun. Iyun is analysis. You need to go through this cold analysis first. So we could stare at it. Then we could see what's beyond it. Then we will understand the nimshal. Because the nimshal is so abstract. It's a bunch of words.
Yeah.
We will appreciate the concept if we're going to go through our own cold understanding. Yes, cold intellectual understanding first. Let's organize this. This is a lot of information, as you said. We just touched at least 6 levels, categories, right? We went through, let's go over in our brain, right? We went through or, chayut, and koach, right? He established first. There's 3. Okay. Then we went to discussing or as being, or makif and or pnimi, right? That's why we need 2 mashalim of sun and the candle. Okay, sun as being or yoshor, and candle as being or chozer, right? Or makif and or pnimi. Beautiful. Then we moved on. Let's discuss chayut hanefesh. Okay, chayut hanefesh brought us to understand what's the koach. Okay. Then we layer that chayut hanefesh, it's actually the level of ruach. And the koach apoel is the level of nefesh, right? He added these 3 organs now. Okay, the level of liver, heart, and brain. Okay. And then he entered into kelim pnimi, kelim emtsayim, and kelim chitzayim. Right? Kelim pnimiyim is the brain. Kelim emtsayim are brain and nervous system. Then we have the doifek, which is the arteries. Okay, and then we have capillaries that go to specific organs. Okay, so that's providing that clarity. So this is what we are looking for. Let's not analyze about how that applies to the nimshal. Let's first understand the mashal. Okay, how each aspect, after we map this out, we need to understand how is it helping us to know this, right? Because the light of the candle and the light of the sun do not enliven. We need to go how the soul enlivens the body before the body is a piece of meat. The soul that gives the power for it to enliven and to send specific powers to specific organs. Because we do know that a body could be alive, but not move. The body could be alive and not have any brain operations going on or significant brain operations going on. Okay. So being alive is no longer enough. Each organ should have a specific koach to do what needs to be done. So that's where the relationship of chayus and koach comes in. Okay. And then we're like, okay, that makes sense. We have this map, very nice. But we need to remember this map because this is like the heart of understanding Memalei Kol Almin. If we skip this, that's it. It's over. We will not understand how this world is being created and enlivened.
Mila, you, for me, the one that's, I guess, feels most abstract is the koach. I don't know why. I guess it's more detailed, so I don't know why it's described as more external. I feel like it's more internal, and the or is more external.
You're bringing out an interesting thing, but it's actually not, because it's the nervous system that's pnimi is the kekelim, that, and the movement is more external, but the movement is more pnimi because it's more specific.
Right.
It's both. So just because it's more specific doesn't make it more pnimi. You understand? When we refer to pnimi, we refer to where the command is coming from. The command is not coming from my hand. The command is coming from my brain. That's the inner layer. It channels through the nerve to deliver command to this specific organ to make that specific movement, but it's able to do that only through the intermediary kelim, which is our arteries. Why? Because if there is a nerve damage, okay, there's no nourishment to that. No, to that. I mean, I know a little bit of medicine, right? Like why people would amputate a leg. Hospital, Valley. Why? Because there was nerve damage. Once the nerve damage, the blood will travel only to where the nerve travels. Make sense? So the arteries will not provide blood nourishment to that part of the organ if the nerve is not there. The nerve is the guide to where the blood should go. That's why you'll see major arteries are usually connected together with the major nerves to that organ. Okay? So therefore, in cases of nerve damage, okay, that's where that part of the limb becomes dysfunctional. So we see the importance of the kalim pnimium. Kalim pnimium are the main kalim that determine what's going to happen with chayus flow to that organ, and obviously the tenua, right? A person cannot move the hands if there is a nerve damage there.
Do you want to close the text just so that we see people more? So I'm just looking up capillaries. Like, what's the definition of capillaries?
Because there's arteries come in, right? The major artery in the hand, and then they spread out.
Okay, let me just say, because I studied biology like too many years ago, and unfortunately, I know that arteries it means the blood going away from the heart. That's what arteries are. It's the part pumping blood away from the heart, so it's oxygenated blood going through the arteries, which is part of the nervous system, I guess. I mean, an artery and a nerve, are they two different things? Or it's
two different things, yeah. Arteries are blood vessels. Nerves are gidim that come out of the brain, and the cord, the spinal cord.
So the arteries
they interrelate, but they're not the same thing. The arteries are aorta is the first artery that comes out of the heart from the left, that's where the heart goes out. And then it divides into smaller arteries, that's called capillaries, that they go to specific organs.
So here it says, capillaries are any of the fine branching blood vessels that form a network between the arterioles and the venules.
Right, so then capillaries go, and then they provide nourishment, and at the same time, they turn into veins that take all the dirty blood back to
the heart,
to the lungs, right, to get oxygenated, and from lungs it goes into, well, I think it goes back into the heart, and then from heart there's a smaller circle that goes into the lungs. They get oxygenated, and then it being pumped again. I mean, we could look into it. I'm sure they have this now. They do this very interesting videos where it actually shows just that system. But yeah, we're talking about when the big power of a life force is being divided into smaller, more concrete parts. Obviously, we know that the brain has a different quality of blood being shoveled there. Brain gets the best blood because of its function. And our, hands and feet and our nails get lesser blood circulation and lesser, because the functions are not as vital. Obviously, our inner organs get a different quality blood. So that's what it means, that different organs receive chayus. That's already becomes koach for that specific organ, that specific message.
Right. So orach, chayus, and koach, they kind of become categories, like, they're specific, and they also have a category, like, like you're saying, within the body, there's orach, chayus, and koach. You could probably say within chayus, there's orach, chayus, and koach.
Well, that's
not saying going into that, but he does that a little bit. Like, you think you're just dealing with 3 categories, and then suddenly you find that it's a category within That's
Yeah,
where
let us first understand the categories and feel comfortable with the general categories, and then we will. It's like machshava, dibur, and ma'aseh.
right.
It's the same thing. By the way, it is the same thing. Later on, he's going to say that the brain is machshava. Dibur comes from the heart. Hadvarim hayotzim min halev, nichnasim min halev. He's going to say that later. And the ma'aseh is the level of koach. It's just that execution, of an action.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, but then each one of them are within each other. There's a machshava of the machshava, dibur of the machshava, masa of the machshava. And yeah, but,
No,
but before we go into that,
yeah. No, I don't mean
but
to
you're right.
complicate it.
Yeah.
He's already doing that. He's showing us that they are concepts. It's like it's a way of categorizing something.
Yeah. I mean, because there is always hitkalalus. There's a concept which is called there's always inclusion of one within the other. It's like we have spheres, and then each 10 is in each one of them. It's like that.
Right.
That's inclusion of.
So are there any questions at this point, or do you feel that you need time to integrate this, go over it? It's a very profound map, Alkalea.
Yeah, I have a question about the last sentence on the first page, where it says, "Rak al yedei shura bahem tuchal or harai lishlot bahem." So, what is this bringing about the power of sight? He's saying, can the power of sight rule over them? I just don't understand those words.
All right. This is the sun, right? 1 second. Where are we? Right. Let's read. Yeah, the sun, meaning if you say that the sun, where are we? We're right here.
It's talking about the first page on the bottom, the last line on the bottom of page 23.
Which page number? 22?
23.
Oh, 23. Okay, good. On the bottom of the page 23. Mashenker or haner, right? Or hanimshach me'esha yisodi. No, it's not this. Way on the bottom.
I know it came out printed on my printing different page numbers. So it says Rak al yedei shura bahem tuchal or haria lishlot bahem.
Right. It's an interesting way of expressing, right? Only because of him, the light of the sun dwelling on them, right? We are able to see the colors, right? The sun has a benefit that we see colors, right? The light. Otherwise, like the spectrum of the sunlight allows us to see. So our eyes is able to catch a spectrum of colors because of the sunlight, and any light per se. Like even if it's dark outside, we could still, the lamp emulates the sunlight, and we are able to see, to see the colors the same way as the sun, the light of the candle allows us. But that not to say that it actually changes the reality. It doesn't create the light, the color. It only allows us to see the color. Does that make sense? Because he wants to prove the point that it's not enlivening. The light is not enlivening things. It allows us to see the colors, but it's not creating colors for us to see.
Mila, where does it say colors there? It just says that the power of sight,
of the eyes to see. Because technically speaking, if it's going to be pitch black, which I don't think anybody ever experiences, maybe, I mean, technically they could put you in this pitch black room. You're not going to see any colors, right? You're not going to see anything but not only colors, you won't be able to see anything. We're able to see later on in this chapter. This is a very wealthy chapter. right? He's putting all the concept here. When we're going to be working on mashalim to understand Yichud Ilah, one of the mashalim is koach, is how we see. And over there, he goes into how we see bichlal. We see because of the light. If there will be absolutely no light, pitch black, we won't be able to see anything.
I guess what I didn't understand
Is this my computer doing stuff funny things?
It's just from your
Yeah, I'm
hand
sorry.
movements.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's
Okay,
acting out. It has mind on its own. Okay.
Yeah, no, just where he says the power of sight rule over them.
I know it's an expression. Yeah, because we won't be able to see anything. It's an expression. Yeah, I mean,
we
welcome to
understand
Reb
the
Hillel.
concept of the sun, in light, enabling us to see. But it's saying the power of sight is ruling over instead of the other way. Isn't that what it's saying here?
But that's like, it's a little bit more poetic way of saying things. Obviously, he means more than what it is. But I think with the information that he given to us up until now, he means that the sight is able to see only because of the lights, right? But that's only what it allows us to do. It's not creating the power of the sight.
So I would think it would be the other way around, saying that the light rules over the power of sight.
No. But he makes it, maybe that's why he's using that expression. Right. He says, it allows the power of sight to rule over it. So quote.
To rule over the light?
That's what it says. But
the power of sight to rule over the light.
Lishlot bahem, right?
Well,
I just find out, yeah.
So what, maybe bahem, it's a strange word, because lishlot, it's to rule. Bahem, it could be
them.
Because of them or in them. It doesn't mean over them. So the English translation could be wrong.
Yeah.
And as Mila says, it could be like a poetic way of saying it, but it means that the light gives the power of sight to exist, to rule. Then it doesn't mean rule over the light, but it could be because of the light. Bahem.
Right.
Is tricky sometimes. It doesn't mean over.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously, the whole structure of how we see, he's going to go over that, Bezrat Hashem, because if you remember, we touched on it, right? In Yichud Ilah, the revelation is done in derech Helam V'Gilui. Remember that? Helam V'Gilui. And in Yichud Tata, it's Atzem V'Yispashtud. So we are learning right now, all the mashalim right now are really discussing Atzem V'Yispashtus. Koach Ariyah, this whole Helam V'Gilui situation, it's a whole beautiful novelty. It's like, when we're going to go over that, we'll be like, oh, Baruch Hashem, I see, this is like a whole, yeah. So for us to understand, the ability to see and how we see, the whole mechanism of sight, it's such a complex situation. So let's answer some in the area. Candlelight, fire, light, and heat on skin. Okay, the soul doesn't create the body. What?
Many comments.
Yeah, so the soul doesn't create the body. Explain. Right, the soul doesn't create the body. Hashem creates the body. The soul enlivens it. Right? Now, it's a good mashal, the body, the soul and the body, but it's not a total good mashal, because Hashem actually creates and enlivens, not just enlivens. Okay, you see, the soul is the best mashal, but that's so far the only thing in the world that actually enlivens. What else enlivens? nothing else enliven, but it's still not good enough because it's missing the aspect of the creation itself. Like what would be the best after passing, the body just disappears. Let's imagine such a world, okay? Let's imagine, okay, the world that after the body, you're like, oh, nobody's here. Yes, somebody's supposed to come to my interview. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Anyway, we're heading the 12 o'clock. Okay, so let's just quickly, the soul enlivens the body. Okay, would you please post your map in the chat? Yes, Bezrat, I will do, but I will do this on Wednesday. I want to see your maps before Wednesday. Okay, please. Okay, just read through it, whatever it is, but just try to keep your categories in line. Yeah? Like, or chayut koach, one category. Neshama, what's it called? Neshama, ruach, nefesh, one category. Brain, heart, liver, line. Yeah, whatever comes, just put it up. Whatever comes to you, you just put it up, and then we'll see what's happening. Use colors, color coding, your imaginations, make it as nice, as beautiful as possible, but don't be constricted by it. Even if it's written, it's still good than something amazing in your brain, but not written. Remember, we're going to be very action-oriented. It's better somehow than perfect, but done than perfect, but not done.
Yes, ma'am. All right. I think that's all for this week. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next week.
Beautiful.
Refuah Shalem, Aniria.
Thank you. Thank you so much.